uses. The existing use to continue as town hall, if we decide that we don't want to spend the money and the effort to move the town hall back to the center. If we do move town hall back to the center and vacate the building, there are a series of options. A possible expanded senior center, cultural center, recreation or youth uses, community meeting spaces, and always the possibility of leasing or renting that space. So we have a series of options on the table that when we get to it, we will take very seriously, but it was premature to come up with a definitive use for that building at this time. We also looked, as many of you know, at the need for a new DPW facility. There's a need to centralize town vehicle maintenance and an important need to upgrade facilities. You'll see in the last two slides when I talk about our phased approach how certain of these facilities are further down the road and therefore don't have quite as detailed plans yet and don't have the final costs yet, because frankly, if we came forward now and gave an enormous number, if you will, for what everything would cost over the next 10 years, what will happen is the projects that are 3 and 4 years out would be estimates based on today's numbers and wouldn't be reliable by the time those plans happen. Finally, we looked at the new water tower needs, but that's being funded under the water enterprise account. Its planning is progressing on schedule. We didn't feel a need to intercede there. So, in conclusion, we're looking at a 3-phased implementation of the facilities use master plan. Phase 1, which is what we're proposing for town meeting next month. Funding the new elementary school at Swan Pond. Funding the new police station behind the current Murphy Center. Developing the schematic designs for middle and high school renovations. And developing schematic designs for the 2 bachelor reuse options. If we look a little further down the road, we look at phase 2. Phase 2 is to update the middle and high schools, renovate the bachelor building for whichever of the 2 plans we decide to go forward on, plan a use for the Murphy Center if it's vacated and if we need a new use for it, and develop designs for the DPW facility. Phase 3, if appropriate, is to renovate the Murphy Center for whatever its new use or uses will be, and to build the DPW facility. And as I said earlier, the water tower is already progressing on its own schedule. So it's important to understand that even though we are only formally funding the new school, the new police station, and the sets of schematic designs, if approved in October, it is part of a 3-phased plan. It is part of the overall solution that we are proposing for North Reading. And as I conclude, a couple higher order issues, if you will. We've spent a lot of time deliberating, discussing, compromising, taking input. We believe that's the right way for the process to go. But we believe that after the almost 3 years put in by the people you see here and many others that have funneled in and off this committee, we've done the background, we've done a lot of checking. We believe that we've analyzed all the significant possibilities. It's important also to understand that our process throughout has been open, as have all of our meetings. Many of you in the room today have come to some of our meetings. We appreciate that, and we've always tried to run an open process. And last but not least, we believe that those who have alternatives should bring them forward, and should bring them forward sooner rather than later. We don't view this as a card game. The future of North Reading and how we spend our tax dollars is too important to allow it to come down to games. And I'll reiterate what Steve said earlier. We urge whoever, either tonight or who is not here tonight, who has ideas, get them to us now so that we can incorporate them, think about them, and discuss them. Anything that comes ambushed at town meeting is too late for us to really do anything productive. With that, I'll turn it back to Steve.
Thank you, Howard. I hope that gives you a pretty good overview as to the thought process and the conclusions that we came to and the rationale behind it. We'll get into some more of the specific details if you wish, to whatever degree you'd like. But prior to that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to have another member of F.U.M.P, who's the representative from the Finance Committee, just come up and tell you exactly what the impact of these proposals are going to mean on your tax dollars, and how much it's going to cost the average home, and you can just do your calculations based upon what your assessed valuation is. Again, we're going to give you the overall The numbers are going to be based upon the current day's numbers, and this includes all of the renovations that have been proposed, both under the schematic design, which are being proposed at town meeting, and the full elementary school, police station renovation. So Brad Jones Sr. will be presenting what the tax impact will likely be, worst case scenario.
I think the last time we presented this was in May, and as I said at that time, this is a work in progress, and it still is. If you referenced May numbers, you would have a certain number for Swan Pond School, you would have a certain number for police station, and those two numbers have gone down, although the rest have stayed the same since there are ones yet to be worked on. And secondly, in all the tax impacts, we've used the rate of 6%. It seemed a prudent thing to do because we were moving from 5 to 5.5, particularly at our last bond borrowing. And since these were future bond borrowings, we had another half point to it to call it 6. The hope would be that if we were to bond within the next year, we might still be at the 5.5. Having said that, the total debt exclusion as it stands, if you looked at the full-blown program over the whole period of time, stands at slightly under $45 million. And if you were to look at that full-blown impact, the peak year with the new debt exclusion included for a $200,000 house is $509.78 in that very peak year. It starts at a low of 147 and change, peaks at the 509, and then begins to descend to 455 to 285, et cetera. But that's the peak year. I have heard that there was a recent handout by proponents, if you will, relative to the cost and the tax impact on new school and new police station. I believe they used the rate of $1.06 per thousand at its peak year, and they used that number so that whatever home you own and whatever assessment it is, you could do your own factoring. And that rate, I believe, had been challenged in other quarters. I would suggest the challenge was not based on the same basis that the actual rate was set or used at $1.06. Having said that, since those rates were established, the school will come down a little, the police station has come down a little. So if we look at the peak years when the new school and the police station would converge at a peak year, that's the year 2004. And the tax impact is 60 cents on the school, and the tax impact on the police station is 42 cents. And my addition tells me that's $1.02, actually less than the criticized flyer. If you want to do it in terms of numbers, on the school, the peak year is about $119.70, call it 120, and the police station is 84.86, call it 85, and round ball, that's $205 peak year impact on a $200,000 house. Now I could go to 300,000, 350 houses, but your brain would probably get as mushy as mine. But there are some benchmarks that you can use. Use the $1.06 peak year, be slightly less a couple of years before that. Every year after that, that $1.06 will progressively grow less. So you at least have your peak and can logarithmically head south with the rest of it.
Thank you, Brad. At this point, what we'd like to do is, again, open it up to any questions or comments, any specific questions you may have in relation to any portion of the project or the overall plan. We'd be happy to address as best we can. And we have a whole host of people here from varying different groups who are pretty well versed in this by now, who are quite willing and capable of answering your questions. If you have questions, Mrs. Jenkinson.
Diana Jenkins, 226 April Street. I feel like I'm Italian. the selectmen did or did not take a vote the other night on the warrant article?
The Board of Selectmen did not take a formal position either recommending or not recommending on the warrant article.
They did not.
They did not. The recommendation will be made prior to town meeting and will be announced at town meeting.
Was there an informal vote taken?
There was no informal vote, but there was plenty of discussion.
Okay. One of the
And
options.
being a member of the board, I would hesitate, strongly hesitate to even fathom
I
what the final
would too.
outcome of the discussion might be.
One of the discussions while I was watching the selectmen's meeting was, once again, the renovation of the Bachelor's School building was brought to the forefront by at least 2 members, possibly 3 leaning that way, at the renovation of the Bachelor's School. And I would like to direct my question to Marcy Bailey, and that would be, what would we do with the 400 to 500 odd students during the renovation to that building? And is there asbestos lead paint in that building, and is it healthy and safety reasons for those students and faculty to be in that building during renovation?
Well, Mrs. Bailey is a member of the school building committee, member of F.U.M.P, and Mrs. Bailey.
If renovation was the option, that's my
Yes,
question.
understood.
Or
I think
should I
Maureen was
direct
trying to give me
someone
something.
else?
No, I'll answer the question. I thought Maureen was trying to give me something. I think that you can, I think that you can safely assume there is asbestos and lead paint from the date of the building. I do not believe that it would be safe, the experts do not believe that it would be safe to have children in there. As Mr. Solomon alluded to, because of changing needs of classroom size, state requirements, structural walls will have to be moved. It's not like the Hood School renovation where there was some infrastructure, but very few existing classroom walls were moved. Some walls were put up and things of that nature, but structural walls will have to be moved. Elevators will have to be installed because it will have to be made handicap accessible. There is no way that children or staff could be in the building while that renovation occurred, leading to your initial question of what would happen to the children. There are basically 2 options. We'd have to kind of make a tenement city of modular classrooms, a very expensive option. The 2 units at the batch, I believe, cost $300,000. You can multiply, that's 4 classrooms. We need about 28 classrooms. Multiply that by 7, that's over $2 million. Add water, access to septic. So you're talking about several million non-reimbursable dollars, as this renovation would not be reimbursable to renovate
Would that
the school.
include a cafeteria, gymnasium, library, or would those all be extra and not included in the budget?
That would probably be extra. It may, we don't know what would happen. It may have to be annexed, who knows if it's in the high school parking lot or on the high school field, and then everyone's traipsed into the high school cafeteria at odd hours to eat lunch. Schedules are staggered. Any number of those things can happen. Or we could look for industrial space that would have to be leased at considerable cost.
Concord Street, maybe?
Maybe retrofitted to work as a school, extra busing to get kids over there, and the upset to the children, not only the economic cost, which would be, as I said, in the millions of dollars, but the disruption for a couple of school years to children and staff and parents.
As a follow-up, if the building as it exists were to be renovated to the current standards, how many classrooms would there be, just without adding anything to the facility, disregarding the modules?
We believe approximately 16,
And there are 21,
20
20
now, not
non-appropriate
including
space.
the modular.
Right,
Yes.
non-appropriate spaces. So, even with renovating the existing building, you're looking at an addition to either the Hood or the Little, and redistricting to handle the 450 to 500 students in that building.
I don't think that we would put another addition on the Hood or the Little school to make up that difference. The infrastructure of those schools can't take it, which was why initially when we embarked on the renovation and addition on the Hood and the Little, they were not made bigger than they were. 12 classrooms is not added to the Hood school because it would have been an incredibly expensive project, increasing the size of the cafeteria, bathrooms, all the administration space. special needs space, all that